Hey, this is Warren. Welcome back to the home studio. A couple of years back, Roland was kind enough to send me the Katana 50 to review, and that ended up being quite a useful thing for me, especially during practice and, smaller gigs where I just needed something light to just do a grab and go thing. So they've been kind enough to send me the new Katana 3. This is the Katana 50 EX. It's a pretty cool update from the Mark II. So now they've got this new pushed model that has been based on some boutique amps, which is really cool to play through. It's very touch responsive, cleans up beautifully. So I've used that as the bass tone for most of the clean sounds that I've been using. The software editor is really cool as well. You get a whole bunch of options that you can't access from the front panel. But having said that, the front panel is simple enough that without the editor, you can simply dial in a good sound and use those for most gigs. You can also add in the optional foot switch, which, then adds to the switching capabilities that you would use in a live situation. So I've made a few sounds. We'll go through them, have a look in the editor and see what's dialed in. And to accompany those, I've made some sound examples as well. So let's get into it. So let's get into the editor and some sound samples. I'm using this Eric Johnson Strat. It's got two V60LP single coils and a Thornbuckle Plus in the bridge. Volume tone 5-way selector. It's strung with D'Addario 10 to 46. So here we've got the Pushed1 preset, and we're using the pushed amp with the gain down a little bit, volume up, kind of, just on the edge of breakup. Bass, middle, treble, as you can see here. We're using an optional booster if we need some. There's a modulation which is a 2-voice chorus, which is really nice. We'll go through that a bit later. For the effects, I've got that slow gear thing. I use that on the intro. It sounds pretty cool. For the delay, I'm using the SD3000 and just setting it on a basic, 400 millisecond, little bit of feedback. I've dropped the range down to 8 kilohertz just so it warms up a little bit. And we've got the modulation on. As you can see, the mod in depth around noonish. You can turn that off and see what that sounds like as well. Effect level to taste. The direct mix is on 100 and the filter is on. Now for a reverb, we're going with a plate around 2 seconds, 75 milliseconds per delay. Little bit of a low cut and a high cut, and the effect level is around 44. I've kept this around the same for most of the presets, so you'll find that the reverb itself doesn't change. And I've got the resonance and presence up a little bit, 64 on both of them. And let's have a listen to what this sounds like. Now for this Pushed2 sound, I've got the gain up and the volume down. We've put a warm OD booster in front as well. For modulation, I've got a chorus, a DC 30. For effects, we've got that slow gear if you want it. You feel free to, change it. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can actually use, so feel free to experiment with that. The delay I've got is on a digital setting, 180 milliseconds for a slap, 0% feedback. And I've warmed it up by just cutting the highs around 1.25 kilohertz. That's an old trick. And effect level around 60, but feel free to set that to taste. Here's what it sounds like. this Crunch1 preset is pretty cool for some, crunchy rhythm sounds. But I've added an octave fuzz, so that sounds pretty cool. We'll hear what that sounds like. I've got a phaser, if you want to try that. For effects, you've got a heavy octave, nice, low octave doubling. For delay, we're using the digital delay, again, rolling off some of that top end. A little bit of feedback, and around 60 is a good spot to set the effect level. For this Crunch2 setting, we've put a warm OD in front just to give it a bit more of a kick. The delay we've got is an SD3000 setting, which is pretty cool, adds a little bit of, ambience. I've got an EQ after the amp. I'm bumping up around 4 dB at 800 Hz just to thicken the mids a bit. And I've set that high cut around 8 kHz to smooth it out a bit. This Lead1 preset has got a bit more gain, nice and snarly in the mids, so it cuts through really nicely. And for the delay, we've got a standard tape echo, set the high cut to where it was, audible but not really obtrusive. For the effects, we've got an octave, got a univibe if you want to try that out. The boost can be kicked in, and the reverb is the same plate that we've been using. Lead2 thickens things out a bit. You've got the warm OD boosting the amp a little bit, and delay is again the SD3000, seems to be working very nicely for lead sounds. And we've got the same EQ after the amp. Let's have a listen. This Brown1 uses the Brown amp, which is the tightest of the lot. Similar amount of gain, I think, to the lead, but a little bit chunkier on the low. So it makes it really nice to dig in and get those palm mutes going on. It doesn't flub out with that. So I've got a similar EQ situation here, just bumping up the mids a little bit and that same high cut. The delay, if you want to put it on, I've got the tape echo, and we've got the warm OD and transfer, a little bit more gain be needed. Brown2 is a lot of fun. We've got the phaser for a little bit of EVH action. The delay, we're using the tape echo. And the reverb is the same plate. You can play with that pre-delay in this situation. You can add the, jack it up to around 100 milliseconds. That's pretty cool. We've got the same EQ as we used in the other preset. And the booster in front, should you need more gain, I doubt it, but the warm OD is pretty cool. I tend to keep the drive low, and the effect level is what I use to push the amp into a little more saturation. Cool. Let's have a listen to what this sounds like. Here are some things I like about this amp. It's small, it's compact, it's light, pretty easy to grab and go. I got good sounds really quickly. I didn't really end up fussing around much. Some things you really have to edit away to get what you're after. But in this case, I was after very usable sounds to use in most, gig situations. And it was pretty easy to get that. The effects are pretty cool to deal with. The delays have some great options. The reverbs sound fine. The choruses and the modulation effects sound really cool as well. I've made the tones available in case you want to give them a go. Use them as starting points, edit them to your heart's content, and see what you get. Thanks for watching.